Hello and welcome to all our new and current camera trappers. This is the webinar to start the summer season of camera trapping with North Carolina's Candid Critters. Happy to have you here. We're very, very happy to have you here. I'm Ariel Parsons from the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences, and with me I have a special guest today, Dr. Roland Kays.
Hey everybody.
He is the lead investigator on the project. He is an expert in all things mammals, in all things, including mammals and camera trapping. And he is from the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences as well, and is also a professor at NC State. So welcome, Roland. Thanks so much for coming.
It's fun to be here. Thanks to everyone for helping us run camera traps for this project. We're going to start off right with, maybe we should save this. This is like the dessert for the end, but
we like to eat the dessert first.
The favorite camera trap pictures.
Yeah, we do. And I should mention before we get into those pictures that you guys can write in questions as usual to this to the webinar. And Roland especially is, as I said, an expert in all things, and we'd be happy to answer all those burning questions that you have about mammals and camera trapping. And
just
all that
don't
stuff.
send any mammal poop pictures, please. I get enough of those on a regular day.
He likes those the best. All right. Oh, hey, we got gifts this time instead of actual pictures.
This is high tech, right?
We're stepping it up.
So this was one of my favorite critters, the woodchuck. It's North Carolina's largest squirrel. Hibernates during the winter, comes out and is very active, of course, chucking wood all summer long. This guy looks to have a piece of grass in his mouth. And the other thing I like about this picture, this is from, I think, Ashe County, North Carolina, is this is like primo woodchuck habitat, right? You've got the field and the forest. And they like this mix of field and forest with some hole they can dart down if the coyote comes after them.
So he's just in Woodchuck Shangri-La.
That is Woodchuck Shangri-La right there.
There you go. It's cute. Oh, I see. I like these guys. So this is,
The fuzzy ones.
The fuzzy ones, exactly. The big fuzzy ones. So this is a red fox, and I just love how curious they are. I mean, he's getting right up there. So do you think that they're, it's like their intelligence that's attracting them to the camera?
I think it's their nose.
Yeah, the scent of...
Canids have amazing noses, and so they're just smelling. Hey, here's a weird piece of plastic. It doesn't really make any noise or blind them with a bright white flash or anything, but there's a weird piece of plastic on the tree, and they come check it out sometimes when they're curious. Now, this one's from Wake County, and we get a lot of foxes from Wake County, but interestingly, most of them are gray foxes.
Right. Yeah.
And so, not that red foxes are rare, but we get a lot more gray foxes than red foxes. In Wake County, what we find across the rest of the state, as more pictures come in, will be really, really interesting.
Yeah. Cute. Ah, another canid.
Going up the food chain here.
Yeah, exactly.
This is probably my favorite, the coyote, the eastern coyote. And you can see as this loops through, count the canids, right? This is 3 different coyotes
like
moving
3.
through. They look like all more or less adults. And so this is the pack. And the reason we like this is because we don't often see 3 coyotes together. Normally when we run cameras, or when you guys run cameras, you send us pictures, it's usually one coyote or sometimes a pair of them moving together. And so while they have these larger social networks that they hang out together, these packs, they don't actually walk around together. They don't actually hunt in a pack the way wolves do. They're usually out by themselves trying to get a rabbit, because you can imagine if one kills a rabbit and has to share it with 3, that's not a very big meal.
Yeah.
And so normally they're killing smaller rabbits, they're eating fruits, they're eating insects, and so they tend to split up.
So when people are out in their backyard, I hear this a lot, and they're hearing the coyotes calling. Do you think that that's generally packs that are hunting, or could it be individuals calling to each other? Or
it's probably not necessarily associated with hunting, but it's social. It's they're often getting together, and they will meet up. So these guys might be coming from a meetup or going to a meetup where they all kind of come. They love like grassy hilltops where they can get and howl together. And they're not howling for you, although it's fun as a human to hear this.
That they are.
They're howling to the other coyotes to say basically, we are a big pack, we have a territory, don't come in here and steal our rabbits. And so that might be what these guys might be coming or going from a howl. This time of night too, you see 7 o'clock in the evening in March. This is probably prime howling habitat.
Perfect time for a howl. Yeah.
This is Carteret County, I think.
Carteret County.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So this is interesting.
Even more unusual.
This is very unusual. So when I think of bobcats, which these are, I don't think so much of packs.
No, they don't form packs at all. And so this, and you can see one's bigger than the other 2. And so I'm pretty sure we have here mom and two cubs, or kittens maybe. And in this case, they're pretty big.
Right.
They're probably about to get kicked out of the house, because you can see this picture again is from early March. And so these were probably born the earlier spring. They're still hanging around with mom. She's probably getting ready to boot them out, but they're still living together happily.
Yeah, because, I mean, bobcats generally are very solitary.
We almost never get a
group
of bobcats, except when there's some young involved. Yeah, that's right.
Cute.
That's not a mammal.
That is not a mammal. That is, in fact, a turkey, and he is really strutting his stuff.
Right. So we were speculating that this guy may have seen his reflection and not realizing it was himself, but he saw another male turkey. No, they have bird brains.
Right.
It's true. And he probably saw his own reflection, and that probably helped sort of stimulate him to do this awesome display. But we love this picture from Ashe County, North Carolina.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we have a special message coming up.
We do. So we've got Ariel's going to step away here for a second,
right.
And if you're sitting at home with your iPad or your magazine, I hope you will put that down. Make sure your seatbelt is fastened, and prepare yourself for this in-flight briefing.
Thank you for joining us for the North Carolina's Candid Critters summer season. Before we take off, I have some brief reminders and a safety message for you. Remember to set your camera between May 15th and May 21st and to allow it to run for a full 3 weeks undisturbed. Don't forget your Kodak moment so that we know when your deployment began and ended. If you'll be setting your camera on private land, remember to submit the online site description form after you set your camera. If you'll be using your own camera, please ensure that it's set to take between 3 and 5 pictures per trigger instead of just 1. After your deployment is complete, remember to upload your photos promptly and never delete any photos. It's turkey hunting season, so remember to wear blaze orange if you'll be out in a hunted area. Please avoid setting your camera on high traffic areas, such as piles of corn and bird feeders. And if you have great photos, please share them with us using the hashtag CandidCritters. Thank you, and we hope you have a pleasant season.
All right.
Phew, wow.
Nice job. Ariel's back from the museum's private jet where she just filmed that. So if you have any questions about any of these details of running cameras the Candid Critter way, type them into YouTube or Facebook, and we'll get to them later in this broadcast. But now it's time to run the numbers.
Yeah.
We started this project this year, and it has the ambitions to be the largest camera trap survey ever, if not the largest mammal survey ever, with thousands of people running camera traps in tens of thousands of places across the state over the next 3 years. And we're off to a great start. So far, we have 700 active volunteers, which is great. We still have a ways to go, but that's a great start. And we've got cameras running so far with data collected from 75 out of the 100 counties in North Carolina, which is pretty good coverage. Over 400 deployments, that means 400 places that cameras have been run, have been uploaded, and we've got another 300 camera traps estimated out there now. So we're getting a really good picture of the mammals in our county and the turkeys. I'm sorry, the mammals in our state plus the turkeys. And totally, this adds up to over 170,000 photos that have been uploaded. And so far, we're keeping on top of it. We have a pretty good record. We've reviewed them all and verified them, and we're getting that information back to you now through our deployment summaries, and we'll be diving into the data more and more. In fact, Ariel's going to give a little summary of what we found in your photographs so far across the state.
Yeah, let's take a look at this. So, perhaps not surprisingly to most of you, the vast majority of our animal pictures are of white-tailed deer. They are the most common, followed by eastern gray squirrels and raccoons. And so if we then take those guys out of this graph, we can take a look at the graphs where the species that are a little bit less common, and some of those are a little, kind of, I don't want to say more interesting. That's kind of biased, but they're
well, when you see as many deer as we see,
exactly. Okay, I'm a little biased, but I love deer. But so we see some other animals kind of drop out here. Virginia possum seems to be the most common of the least common, and then coyotes come next, which I found really surprising.
Right. So coyotes were the most abundant predator in the state so far, and it's interesting because they're not really native. We never used to have coyotes here. They moved in the last 50 years or so, and they've now claimed the title of most abundant carnivore. In some ways, they're filling the role of the wolf that we used to have. And we don't actually have any red wolf pictures yet, although we're getting some cameras out in those areas. Hopefully we'll get some of those soon. But you can see some other pretty cool animals from our state that we're picking up in the cameras.
Yeah, so we have some of the least common species that we found are the North American otter. And so it's not too surprising that we don't have very many detections of otters, because we tend to, they tend to be associated with rivers, and we tend to tell people not to set their cameras on bodies of water.
Our cameras aren't that waterproof.
They aren't that waterproof, and you tend to get a lot of false triggers when you do that. We also have gotten a couple southern flying squirrel, but again, those guys tend to be up in the trees more often, and since our cameras are on the ground, we don't, tend to get them unless we're really lucky. And so another surprising one that we've gotten one detection of are these wild boars, these wild pigs, and that I find it surprising that we've actually gotten so few.
Well,
that's
it's
one
super
that we're
interesting.
really
This
interested in.
this was one of the species we really wanted to find out. Where do these guys live around the state? How common are they? We definitely know they're here, and they cause problems by tearing up the understory, rooting around the ground. They're really bad for native plants, and they're also a risk to the domestic hog production because they can carry diseases that can spread. And so, where these invasive species are is a super interesting question that you guys are helping us address. And so far, we just have one detection. So we still have a lot of places left to run cameras to really map this out. So this will be one of the stories that'll be really interesting to see how it develops as the project matures.
Yeah. So I know you're kind of disappointed that we didn't get very many elk pictures.
The
We
elk
didn't
aren't
get
there
any
yet.
elk pictures yet.
Not
right?
yet. Elk are another relatively uncommon species in the state. They were reintroduced in the Smoky Mountains, and they're starting to spread out. So we know their populations are growing, but exactly where they are, and this is a place. This is some of the areas that we're looking to get more cameras. So if you live in an area with elk, we really need some more cameras running that area, and please help us recruit your neighbors, et cetera, so we can find out where the elk are.
Yeah, and there are lots of other cool species like that that we're, that are more rare that we're, looking to get detections of at some point through the course of this project.
Armadillo.
Like armadillos. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
So
Spotted
armadillos.
skunks
Let's
as
talk
well.
about armadillos for a second.
Yeah, let's talk about armadillos.
We know that they're here in the state. There have been some road kills. They seem to be creeping up from South Carolina, but exactly how far they've gotten, we really don't know.
And in our previous camera trapping, we got some in Tennessee, kind of right on the border.
Right.
So we know that they're in the area. We want to find out exactly where they are, though.
And the marsh rabbit is one of my favorites.
Yeah, we're excited
sort
about
of seldom seen rabbit, and we're getting some on camera, so that's great.
Yeah, so great job. We really appreciate all the pictures coming in, and you can see it's very interesting for us to see what you get, just as I'm sure it's interesting for you as well. And so I think we're going to talk about taking what we do when we take some of these pictures and give these summaries to volunteers.
Right. So we've been hogging all the data so far, and now we're starting to give it back to you. We have a new program called that we've just launched on our website, where we report back to you what you found. And so you, as you know, you run your camera trap, you upload your pictures to us, we verify everything, and now we get to send it back to you. And so this is where we confirm what you've got. So here in this example, this camera was out there for 33 days, a little long, but I got 44 detections of 7 species, and you can see on the left all the different species it detected. And so we showed this back to you so you know what you got, which you kind of already knew. But the cool thing is we can put this into some units of animals per day that we can now start to compare across the state. And so what we want to do is show you what you got compared with what the rest of the state has got in terms of animals per day. So in this case, for example, the American black bear has 18 pictures. If we get the next slide here.
That was a lot of black bears.
Yeah, so compared to the rest of the state, you can see the green bar is this deployment, and the orange bar is the average. And so you can see, wow, and we have a little text over there on the side.
Yeah, we do.
You had a much higher detection rate for American black bear. So this particular set had high black bear, high turkey, and high, in this case, cow.
Look at that.
We don't get very many cows in most of our cameras, and there were some walking around in this field, so that was interesting. And you can see, even though they had a fair amount of deer, about species detection rate of 0.25, so about a deer every 4 day. Mm-hmm. That's actually relatively low compared to a lot of the rest of the state. So maybe the bears are chasing all the deer away. I don't know. But this is the kind of thing that you'll get every time you upload pictures, and we verify, and we'll send this back to you on the eMammal website. We'll also show you how you did in terms of species identification. So this graph will show you how accurate you were in identifying pictures, and if we had to change any later. So for example, in this case, this guy got them all right. But if, for example, you confuse gray fox and red fox, this is where you would see that, hey, you might want to pay a little bit more attention to that, and then you can read up and sort of identify, which animals do you need to get to know a little bit better to get better in your identification. So we're trying to help you in that as well. And if you want, so these are going to automatically show up on your website and your dashboard. If you want to get an email that lets you know when a new one shows up, you need to just check a box in your settings. So if you go to your edit profile on eMammal up at the top, and then edit profile, you'll see a box now, a new box that says volunteer email notification. Check that box, and you'll get an email every time you've got a new deployment summary. And it's not going to be that much, right? It's just one for every camera that you've uploaded. So it's not going to swarm your inbox. So I hope you'll do it and check it out. And we'll send an email to you with these instructions as well, so you don't have to memorize this webcast.
Yeah. Great. And so for those of you that have already set your cameras, and
We've
you've
got a
done your
present
first
for
upload,
you.
we've got a present. So we've got this very exciting Candid Critters. It's not patented, but it's unique. It's the
unique.
only of its kind.
It's the only place you can get a raccoon trying to steal your
Yeah,
drink.
there we go. Let's see if we can line it up. So we've got these raccoon hands. So keep your paws off my drink. Here, I've got a water bottle here. Let's see. So it's kind of a la Snap wristbands of the 90s. There we go.
Look at that. That's
So,
great.
It's nice, and it's got the Candid Critters logo. So these will go out to all the great volunteers that did their first upload. So you only have had to have done one upload, and if you've already done that, those will go out this week. And if you're thinking about doing that and you're thinking about participating in the project, you have this to look forward to.
Make sure you upload your pictures. If we don't get the pictures uploaded from you, we don't get the data, we can't do anything with it. What about for our super volunteers that are out there all year round?
We do have super volunteers who are out there all year round, and for them, they get this amazing Candid Critters. You should turn around and show them the back. Candid Critters T-shirt.
Oh, snap.
Oh, snap. So these are, again, for those volunteers that have run their camera traps for a full year, you will receive this T-shirt as our thank you gift to you. And I believe the plan is that every year we'll actually change the species that's on it. So this year, as you can tell, it's a raccoon, my personal favorite.
Well, and this was kind of inspired by all the camera trap pictures we get where a raccoon is checking out the camera trap and looking right at it. This is what we tried to represent here. So if you've got another camera trap picture or another species that you've really come fond of through camera trapping, let us know. I'm kind of rooting for red fox as the next one. I've heard some calls out for possum and black bear.
I kind of want bobcat.
Yeah. We'll see. Well, we've got a couple years in the project, so let us know in the comments if you've got a particular species you think we should have as next year's T-shirt. But for now, we really appreciate your help running camera traps year round. That's what really gives us a really good idea of what's going on in the state. Winter, summer, as seasons change, and so we want to thank you by giving you this T-shirt. Not available in any stores.
Nope.
Not available any other way, but by running camera traps with Candid Critters. So thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all that we have for reminders and stuff to share with everyone. So this is the time that we've reserved to take your questions. So if you've got some burning questions that you haven't asked yet, you can go ahead and write them in.
If you type them in to either the Facebook site or to the YouTube site, we'll get them up here and address them. And we've got our first question here from Bill and Paula. We're saying that they just finished running a camera in Moore County and they didn't get any animals. And so they're wondering, where should we put our camera next? And so this was, I guess, on their own property, right? So in Candid Critters, you can run a camera on your own property, or you can run a camera in one of the sites that we pick and adopt a site. And we need both, so both are great. Yep. In this case, the absence of animals is still data. It's still interesting. And so that is going to be a very interesting point. And the fact that you got your own picture at the beginning and your own picture at the end showed us that the camera trap was running the whole time, which they said they did. So that's great. And so I would say some other point on your property, we like to go at least 200 yards away, 200 meters away to try to get a little diversity. But just pick some other place, kind of at random. We don't want to pick a place that's obviously like a deer wallow or a pig wallow or a bunch of corn.
What exactly is a wallow?
A wallow is one of those places where some animals the deer will paw at it on the ground and set mark on it, and the pigs like to lay and wallow, rub themselves
you
in
learn
the mud.
something every day.
So basically, if you're running on private property, you run it in one place and you don't get much, just move it to another place, at least a few hundred meters away to try to get them a little bit more separate. And if you're running out of places on your own property, you can get permission from a neighbor, or you can set one of the sites on one of the public lands. We've got 13,000 points on public lands that we need your help to run. So it'd be great to adopt one of those.
Yeah, and one thing that I'll add is we do have a rule that people can only set one deployment in their backyard. And the reason for that
literally
is
backyard.
Right, and the reason for that is we have, as you can imagine, a lot of volunteers that are interested in what's going on in their backyard. And so we want to make sure everyone gets a chance, and that but that our data set is not only backyards.
Right, we need the woods and the fields.
We need the woods and the fields as well. Yeah.
As well. You want to do the next question?
Yeah, let's go for number 2. So David asks how many decimal places we would like for the GPS location, and that's a great question. And so generally we want at least 5 decimal places.
All of them.
Yep. Yeah, basically as many as we can get, because that is going to be a more precise location.
Great. So the next question is from Wake County, from Tim, who says he wants to participate and he's waiting for a camera in Wake County. And we're based in Wake County, and we've got a lot of people in Wake County who love their animals, and we don't have that many cameras. So we have a camera shortage. But Tim, if you or your colleagues would like to take a little road trip, there's a whole lot of other counties in North Carolina that we need help with. Yeah. And so you can have this as an excuse to go visit a state park that you've never visited, or a game land, adopt a couple points over there and get to know another corner of North Carolina, because we only have so many cameras in Wake County, and we want to get better coverage across the state. So that's our short-term solution. You can wait it out, and the cameras will become available. But I hope you use this as an excuse. Maybe you've got a trip planned in the summer to the mountains or to the beach, and you're willing to go to the same place, of course, 3 weeks apart, to sample that place. That would be great. But we hope this will, part of our motivation is not only to get the data, which of course as scientists we're interested, but also to encourage people to get outside and to connect with the animals in different parts of the state. And so Tim and others in Wake County, sorry we don't quite have enough cameras. There's been a great demand, but hopefully you'll make the most of the beautiful state we live in.
Yeah. All right, the next one, let's see. Are there any mammals attracted to camera traps, and are any afraid of camera traps?
In fact, we are experts in the world at this question.
We are. That is an excellent question.
Lisa Gatens in our lab has been leading a research project to look at exactly this question. And why don't you tell them how she does it?
Why don't I tell them about it?
All right, that's hard. It's not that complicated.
No, I don't think it's that complicated.
That's the great thing about camera traps. Yeah. You just look at the pictures and you see.
Exactly. And you see what animals. So Lisa's actually looking at species, not only North American species, but species from all over the world, and seeing what their reactions are to the camera. Are they running away from the camera? Will they flee? Is actually the name of her project. Or are they, attracted to the camera? Are they coming back and kind of sniffing it? Or are they just passing by and ignoring it completely? And that, I don't think she has quite gotten the results yet, but...
Well, no, the results are most animals don't even notice the camera.
Right.
And of the animals that notice the camera, most animals just ignore it. And of the animals that notice the camera and don't ignore it, some of them are attracted and they come right up, like our raccoon mascot, and they sniff the camera. They're very curious. They get so close, all you can see are whiskers. And other animals will sometimes freak out and run away. But those are relatively rare. And what's interesting is around the globe, the species that seem to notice the camera the most are the domestic animals. The cows and the dogs in particular can notice that. I don't know if they have a better smell or they just are more cued in. And the other one are the elephants, which we haven't run into in North Carolina yet. But in Africa and Asia, elephants, I guess they've got the long snout, right? They can smell the cameras. Mm-hmm. They often don't like the cameras. And so they seem to notice the cameras more than some of the other ones.
Yeah. And we do get a lot of bears in North Carolina also that, we got a lot of bear faces and also that like to use them to scratch on.
Oh, the bears, yes. Yeah, the bears will scratch their back on there. Yeah. Great. So our next question comes from Mary from Yancey County, and she says that they have some flying squirrels at their home, and they might be in the trees. They think they hit their bird feeders at night, and they're wondering how to get detections of this species. So in this case, we don't want you to set your camera on the bird feeder for 3 weeks and send us all those pictures. If you want to set your camera on your bird feeder for a couple of days and use them for your own purposes, that's great. But we want to have some kind of the whole premise behind Candid Critters is to have a standard survey across the state. And so we want you to set it out in the woods and just get whatever's walking by. And you might get a flying squirrel. Soaring by, gliding by. Yeah. And we do get those sometimes. But that's not necessarily... or you might not, because like you said, they're up in the trees. There's some species, as Ariel was saying earlier, that we're not getting great surveys of flying squirrels and river otters are two of those because they're up too high or they're down in the river.
Right, and our sampling is really just concentrating on what's kind of moving around, mostly on the ground. Right. So, and that's the other reason that eMammal doesn't survey birds, really.
Right.
I mean, we get turkeys, but we're not really concerned with songbirds because the way that we set our cameras is not a good way to.
We get a robin picture every once in a
them.
while,
Right.
but it's not the statewide robin survey.
Exactly. That would be a different, you know,
Right,
different
and so, and
protocol.
actually for flying squirrels, there's another group that's working on using their calls, their
I
acoustic
didn't know
calls.
that.
Yeah,
Oh,
so you
cool.
can hear their calls, and in fact, there's a North American mammal app that I put out with Princeton University Press, where you can listen to the flying squirrel call and listen to what they sound like. It's a squeaky call, and I've heard them in my backyard here in Wake
Really?
County. Yeah,
I don't think I even know what they sound like. I won't ask you to imitate
Okay.
it. Yeah, no, not today.
it's a squeak.
Okay. All right. So the next one is how do I access the public land points from Bill and Paula? Thank you for the question. So there is a map on the website. If you go to ncandidcritters.org and go to volunteer resources, I think it's the second link down. It will say site description map. Click on that and it'll open a map of all the points. There will be a lot of the points. As Roland said, there's like 13,000 points. And if you just click on the individual points, it'll give you information about it and you can kind of zoom in and manipulate the map. We do have a webinar that we did, I think 2 or 3 webinars ago that I would encourage you to check out, which tells you a little bit more about how to use that map. So you can go ahead under the, again, volunteer resources. There's a link at the bottom that says the past Q&A sessions. Just go and check that out and it'll tell you more about how to access the map and how to use it.
But basically, you're going to look at the map, pick which point you want, and adopt it.
Yeah, and
by
you can put
adopting
in
it
your
and filling,
address.
filling out the form and adopting that point, we'll remove that from the map so nobody else adopts it because we don't want 2 people to run cameras at the same time. But that's basically the way. So you get to pick which parts of the state you want to get to from that map.
Yeah.
Great. So the next question is, how difficult is it to accurately identify mammal species caught on camera? And this question is, well, it depends,
Yeah,
right?
it really
If you get a
depends.
black bear that sits right in front of the camera and smiles at you, that's not hard, right? We've got kindergartners who are 100% accurate at that one. If you get a black bear who walks by and all you see is the tip of his ear, that can be a little bit trickier. And so this is why we have the expert review process where you guys look at the pictures and you do the first cut of identifying all the animals, and then you upload them to us and we double check everything. Because we have gotten very good, for example, at identifying little ears. Because sometimes an animal will come up and all you see, right, like on the shirt, all you see are the little ears that poke up. And we know how to tell raccoon ears from possum ears because we've been doing this a long time. And we know how to tell different tails and things
Tails,
like
yeah.
that, and animals that are really blurry in the background.
Sometimes just fur you can
Sometimes
you
just
can tell.
fur. Sometimes we
That's
can't tell.
tough,
And
though.
so
That's
we
tough.
also have a category called unknown animal. And so if you see an animal and you don't know you're not sure what it is, just say unknown animal, and we will definitely take a close look at that. We look very closely at all unknown animals. And so that's an example where it kind of depends, and that's why we have this kind of double check quality control, so we make sure we have the best data coming in at the end.
Right.
Next question.
All right, the next one is, I have pictures to upload, but I'm waiting to get back to the location to get a more accurate location, more accurate coordinates. Should I upload them now or wait about a week until I can get back there? That's from David. And so David, either way is fine. It's fine if you wait a week to upload them. The other way that you can get the location is you could use iTouchMap and just kind of look at the aerial photograph. And if you zoom in as far as you can get, then you should be able to get the location without accurately enough without actually having to walk out to that location. And so that's itouchmap.com. So that's a good way to do that. Or you can wait a week. That's
a
fine
great
too.
idea. Yeah. So yes and yes. Great. So the next question is, they just moved. I want to participate, but I live in a townhouse. Is there a way for me to participate, and where could I set the camera? Yes, absolutely. We need your help, and we have worked very hard to get access for you to run a camera trap on basically a whole lot of public land across the state. And so we have this map that Ariel was talking about earlier where you can go online and you can pick the public land that you want to run camera traps at. And you can see the spots, you can see the trail map, you can figure out which ones you want to go to. You can pick them and hold them for yourself, and then you can go run cameras there. And that really helps us because we've got 13,000 points on public land that we need help running. And it's the most beautiful state parks and game lands and national forests and national parks, and we've got the research permits to have you get out there and run the camera traps on this. So this is a unique opportunity, and definitely, no matter where you live, you can venture into our public lands and help survey the mammals and get probably some pretty cool mammal pictures along the process.
And have a good time. out there.
And it's fun. Yeah, it's a good way. You know, some of these parts are parts of the state you might not otherwise visit, and you never know what you're going to find there.
Exactly. You could discover the Carolina panther.
Well, the panther, we haven't gotten a mountain lion
We
picture
haven't
yet.
gotten a mountain lion
We don't
picture
expect
yet.
to because we don't think that there
Probably
is
not.
actually a breeding population. But of course, they're in Florida, not too far away, and so one could wander through. There have been some confirmed camera trap pictures of mountain lions in Tennessee now, 2 or 3 in the last couple years.
I did not know that. Wow.
So they are not. It's not
Not
unreasonable.
out of the realm of possibility.
And I'll tell you what, if you tell the state game commission you saw a mountain lion, they're not going to believe you.
Right.
If you run a Candid Critter camera and you get a mountain lion picture in amongst the other ones, that's
We'll believe
evidence.
you.
That's proof. That's
Yep.
science.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so next question is from Pam, and she's doing the summer session, and she had done the spring session and wants to know if she needs to return her camera and pick up a different one. And so, Pam, you don't need to return the camera unless you're borrowing from Wake County, but it sounds like you're borrowing from Alamance County, and so that should be fine. It should be fine for you to just hold on to your camera and keep going through the summer. But if I'm misunderstanding and you are from Wake County, just check in with your volunteer coordinator and make sure that she knows that you want to extend. Yeah, if you're from Alamance County, just check in with your volunteer coordinator. Let her know that you want to extend, and you should be fine. You should be good to go.
All right, so the next question is, while hiking, I often hear something rustling in brushy areas. Can I set a camera in a dense thicket to see what's in there? And I would say this is kind of a yes and no. I would say yes, because our goal is to get a representative sample of what's out there. And if there's dense thickets out there, then we want to know what's in those dense thickets just as much as you do. The tricky part is if you set a camera with a dense thicket of brush right in front, you're not going to be able to see very far. In particular at night, the flash will kind of overexpose all those twigs, and you won't be able to see. So what you need to do is find a place in the thicket where you've got a few yards of relatively open area, so that first sort of 5-10 feet are open, because if there's any stick there, it can even be one stick right in the middle, the exposure will get all messed up from the flash. So thickets, yes. Sticks right in front of the camera, no.
Yeah, you always want to know what's in those.
I do. Yeah. What's
rustling
rustling
bushes,
around?
yeah.
And I bet it's a rabbit.
You think?
Yeah. Well, it depends. If it's at night, it's probably a rabbit.
Yeah, you're probably right. All right, so our next one is, how are the sites on public land chosen by the Candid Critters team? That's from Martin. And that's a great question. So we try and choose those sites on public lands as randomly as possible, so that we're not really, this way our cameras are set randomly, and we assume that the animals are moving more or less randomly, so we can say the things that we want to say about those populations.
Well, so we want it to be representative. We want to get a
Representative. That's a better
representative
word,
sample,
yeah.
and randomly is getting if you set them randomly, that's representative. We don't do it 100% randomly because we don't want you to walk off a cliff.
Yeah,
and so
exactly. And we don't want you to have to go unreasonably far from the nearest trail or the nearest parking area. So we have different levels of difficulty for these hikes. And so when you look at that map, there's a measurement tool. And so you can measure how far you're going to need to walk and through what sort of terrain, so that you can pick the site that's right for you. And some people really want those 10-mile off the trail hikes, but most people, there aren't any 10-mile off the trail hikes, but most people,
we'll make some.
We could make some. If there are people out there that want the really rough ones, we will oblige. But yes, they're as random as possible while still trying to keep you as safe as possible.
Right. So the next question is, do I need my own camera if I select a point on the North Carolina Candid Critters site selection map? And that's from Tim. And the answer is no. You can use our cameras for those points. Totally. We're interested in surveying lands on the public lands, surveying sites on the public lands and on private lands. And we're interested in using our cameras and in using your cameras. If you've got a camera that's suitable, you can use it, but you can also totally borrow our cameras, and you can run our cameras, that you check out from a local library. You can run them on private land or public land. So it's all mix and matchy.
Yeah. All right, the next question is from Dan, who says that we're on the list for Wake County, and when we get a project camera, do we have to place it in Wake County, or can we place it somewhere else? Dan, especially for Wake County, you can place it elsewhere. Usually the way this works is that people will borrow a camera from one county, but they could put it in another county, usually one that's close by. In the case of Wake County, because we have, as we've been saying, so many people already setting cameras in Wake County, if you would like to take that camera elsewhere, we're perfectly happy with that. Elsewhere within the state, I should say, we're happy with that.
Great. I don't know if this is the same Dan, but Dan also has a question about animals noticing the camera and says they have a family of deer. And one of the very first pictures, this is with their own camera, was of the does that was looking right at the camera. And that doesn't surprise me, especially the first one, right? Because these animals are very observant of their environment. And when they see something that's on the tree that wasn't there before, they're going to notice it. They're going to look at it. They have really good hearing, and a lot of mammals have really good senses of smell. So they're probably going to smell it's a piece of plastic that a human was touching recently. And some cameras, you might be able to hear something. There's some evidence that there's these like ultrasonic noises that are super high pitched that we can't hear, that animals might notice a little bit. And, you know, for all intents and purposes, it doesn't seem to bother them very much. But if it suddenly, you know, starts taking the picture, they might look at it. And occasionally they do freak out. Occasionally they do come sniff it.
Sometimes.
But for the most part, not.
All right, the next question is from George. I uploaded my pictures a couple days ago on the 26th, but there's no info on my deployment. How long does it take to get my results on my summary? Well, I haven't played around with the summary as much, so I'm not sure.
It should happen as soon as we approve them.
Okay, so that's the issue. So George, what happens is you upload your pictures and then they have to go through this expert review, which Roland was kind of alluding to, where we go back through all your pictures and make sure that you identified all of the animals correctly. And sometimes that takes a while. As you can imagine, we get a lot of those and we have to go through one by one. And so it could conceivably be a week or, you know, a couple weeks, several weeks before that actually happens. And so, you know, go back and keep checking in to your deployment summary. But if you check, as Roland showed, if you check, yes, I would like to receive these emails, then it will arrive in your email inbox as soon as it's ready. And so that might be the best way for people to kind of monitor that.
We go through them as fast as we can. It sort of depends how many students we have in the lab, how many pictures are coming in, and sometimes we will go through and sort of quickly go through them, but there might be a couple sticky ones that we want to double check, and so we kind of leave them unfinished until we can go through and make sure that they're totally right. Because once they go through, then it's kind of finished. So sometimes it takes a little longer, but we're definitely working on speeding that up. Well, thanks everyone for coming. Yes. I think that was our last question, and we really appreciate the questions, and we appreciate all the awesome pictures and data that you're collecting with us on the project. And we'll be back in mid-July for our next live stream. Not sure the exact date yet, but
mid-July sometime.
Mid-July, we'll figure it out. We'll let you know, and we'll have a new batch of pictures, of course, coming from all y'all, and some new statistics. We'll start diving into what we're finding a little bit more. And hopefully a lot of you will be watching it with a cold drink in your Candid Critter koozies.
And don't forget that if you want to rewatch these webinars at any time, we have all of our webinars, including this one, recorded up on the website under volunteer resources. So check it out. Check back in with us whenever you have a question or just want to see our smiling faces and all these camera trap pictures. So thanks so much, and we hope you guys have a great summer season.
Great. Thanks again.